Hi there! Welcome to Metis ALIVE. My name is Felice Gladue and I'm going to teach you the one needle beading technique. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to be using the large pony beads as well as yarn and an extra large needle with an extra large eye. In your beading kits, you'll have seed beads, either 10 or 11, with a long beading needle and beading thread. But for demonstration purposes, this works better. All right, to thread my needle, I always put it in between my thumb and my pointer, and I just pull it thread down until it's just slightly above my fingertips there. And I'm going to put the eye of the needle down onto the thread while I'm pushing up with the thread. So pushing down with the needle and then pushing up with the thread and then pulling it through the eye. I find that's the easiest way to successfully thread a needle, because honestly, beading, the most frustrating part of beading is actually threading the needle. And then tying the knot, because you want a big chunky knot at the end. I usually hold the short tail and the eye, and then I just tuck in the end of the thread in between my pointer and my thumb, wrap it around. I'm just going to wrap it around 3-4 times because this yarn is thick, but with the beading thread, I usually wrap it about 5-6 times. You don't want it too tight, but you don't want it too loose. So you just need it loose enough that it's going to be able to slide down the shaft of the needle. So I just push that in between my thumb and my pointer finger. So that's that wrapped part. Just kind of scooch it down in between your thumb and your pointer, and then just pull it down. Now you want to hold on to that bulky part of wrapped thread, because that's what's gonna turn into your knot. And when you get to the bottom, you can let go there and you've got a nice chunky knot. All right, so for beading with one needle, you just take about 1 arm length worth of thread, and you can start by making your tail quite a bit longer so your thread is shorter. You're going to start from the underside. So today I'm just using stiffened felt, just for demonstration purposes here. You're going to start from the underside. Now I put a dot right in the center. This is where you want your center bead to rest. And so you're going to come up on the outside of that center dot. Okay, so not right in the middle of the dot, but on the outside. You see that there? Then you pull up. Now you're going to load up your bead and then drop it. And now you're going to go down on the other side of that black circle. You want to create a space that your bead is going to sit. So I go down just on the other side of that circle. And pull down. Okay, now your bead is sitting smack dab in the middle of that circle. So that's your first bead. Then you're going to go back up. Now I go about half a bead's width away. Okay, so there's a space in between here. This space is about a half a bead's width away. I pull up. Now it doesn't matter what size of beads you're going to use. Your first circle is always 7 beads. And so I just noticed here too that when I pulled up, I didn't quite get all the threads. So that's something you want to continually check on. All right, so I'm going to load up 7 beads here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, drop them down. And ultimately, these 7 beads are just going to loop around. So you're looping it around, and you just keep following that flow and go back through the first bead. Okay, so I'm just following that flow of the circle. See that there? Just following the flow of the circle and pulling it through the very first bead that you put on. Okay, I call that thread that's running through, I call it the spine. So now you've got it in a circle, but it's floppy. It's not secured yet. So that's what we're going to do next, which is called tacking. So you're just going to go back down, okay, just down on the outside here, and pull. All right, now the tacking part, I use my thumb to hold down half of the circle. I come up through the middle, okay, so in between the black center bead and your circle of 7, pull up, and then you want to go over. You want to go over that spine. So you're going to go over and tack down. Okay, and pull. Make sure that goes over the right spot. Now you just turn your fabric around a little bit and go to the next space. Up through the middle. Okay, again in between the black center and the circle of 7. Pull up. We're going over the spine. So remember, the spine runs through the beads. We're going over the spine. You're going to tack down and pull. Whoops, let's move that over. There we go. All right, now I've got 2. You can see that 2 are tacked down there. Again, we're going up through the middle, the inside there, pull. And when you tack down, you want to tack close to the beads there. You don't want to tack far out here, because then you're going to have a long stitch of thread. You want to tack close to the other side of the beads, and I often tack at an angle. That hides your thread underneath your row of beads. It's not such a big deal when you're going to have additional rows all around. Your thread would be covered by the beads, but when you get to an outside stitch, you don't want your thread to be showing. I also tack down every single bead, so every single space there's a tack. Some people will only tack every second one. Whoops. But I just think that the amount of time you put into beading, you want your work to be secure and to last a long time. So I always tack down every single bead. Of course, it's going to take you longer, but in the end, it's worth it. All right, so I'm just about back at the beginning here. Yeah, I think this is my last tack. All right, so now we're going to do the second circle of beads. It's usually about 16 beads, but it can vary depending on the size and shape of your beads. So I'll show you how to determine that. All right, we're going to go back through these beads here. I'm going to go up through the middle, and instead of tacking, because I've already tacked there, I'm just going to go through these beads. So basically you're creating a double spine now. And again, it's just to hold those beads in place to give them extra security. All right, so there's the double spine. Now I need to tack down. and then come back up again about half a bead's width away. So in here should be half a bead's width of a space. You want to kind of envision that the spine of the thread that we've been calling the spine, kind of envision where it's going to be there. And so if I'm envisioning that, the spine is going to be in this area. So that's where I'm going to come up. On that circle. So I'm going to load up 4 beads. Okay, from now on I'll just load up 4 at a time. I find that works the best for me. Some people will load up 7, 9, 16 at a time. I find 4 works the best for me. So you're going to load up, then you're going to space. Okay, so I'm just making sure it's nice and tight on this side, and then using my thumb to snug it all up there. Okay, I put my thumb on those beads to keep them in place, and then I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down again on that circle. You want to put your needle down just in front of your last bead. And now you're going to go back and tack that way. So we strung on our beads this way, and then we're going to tack back. So I'm going up in the middle, so between the circle of 7 and your new 4, go up and over, and then tack down at an angle. All right, that's 1. Then I'm moving over to the next one. Over and tack at an angle. That's 2. And then the last one is 3. Okay, so you're going to do 3 tacks. And then at the end here of your 3 tacks, you're going to come back up where you started. Okay, that first bead, you're going to come up and turn that around, and you're going to go through your beads to double the spine. Okay, now you're ready to load up another 4 beads. You should always load up from thread that's coming out of the middle of your bead, not thread that's coming just up through your material. Okay, now we're ready to put on the next set of 4 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we load and we drop them. Load, drop, and now we're going to space. So we're pushing them up against your first 4 beads, snugging them up like that. Put your thumb on to hold them in place, and now you want to place your thread just in front, about half a bead's width in front. You don't want it too far, but it is actually better to overshoot than to get way too close. If you get too close, then your beads are going to buckle. So needle down, and now we're going to go work backwards tacking. Just a note that usually at this point, I'll kind of loop my finger, my middle finger with the thread, and just pull it taut so that there's no slack in it. And I'll hold that underneath like that. And now I'm going to use my thumb to hold on to the beads as I back tack. So another reason why I only use 4 beads at a time is, okay, now that I've pulled that one out, I have released it from my middle finger there. The reason I only use 4 beads at a time is for counting the tacks. I find if I use more than 4, I get really mixed up on which number of tacking I'm at. With the 4 beads, I only have to tack 3 at a time, and I usually can remember what spot I'm at, and if I don't remember, it's just really easy to look. So that's the reason I only string on 4 at a time, but like I said, some people string on 9, 10, even more. All right, so I've got my 3rd tack there. So now I'm gonna come up to do the double spine. So I'm coming up there, turn my fabric around, and then I'm going through those 4 beads to double the spine. And now I'm in the ready position. Remember, the thread should be coming through the middle of the bead. I'm in the ready position to load up my next 4 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4. So load. Now I'm gonna drop. Now I'm gonna space. See my thumbs. Thumbs are so important in beading. Use my thumb to hold them down. Whoops. Needle down. About half a bead's width away. Pull. Now I'm using that thumb underneath here. Or sorry, not the thumb, my middle finger to pull. Nice and tight. Needle up for the first tack, releasing that thread from the finger. Needle down at an angle, up and over, right? And again, up through the middle, over, and tack down at an angle. Up through the middle, and tack down at an angle. That's the 3rd tack. Now we're going back up on the first of the 4 beads and turn that. And now we're going through the spine. You hear my cuckoo clock? And now you're in the ready position there, again, to load on the next, well, 4 beads, but it might not be 4. So let's see. We're going to load up 1, 2, 3, 4. Load and then drop. Now we're spacing. So let's space here. So let's take a look. Now, it's always better to have less beads than too many. Okay, it's better to have a space than to have crowding. If you have crowding, your beads are going to be pushing and they're going to start to buckle. So it is much better to have a little bit of a space. Now, when you're looking at it right on, you know, kind of underneath a microscope, basically, because you just hyper-focused on it, a space doesn't look that great, but really beadwork is often admired from afar. You know, if you got it on a jacket or your moccasins or in a bag, people are looking at it from a bit of a distance. They're not, you know, right up on it. And from far, it looks, you can't even see the spaces. So I feel that 4 right now is going to be a bit of a buckle there. You can see it's kind of buckling. So I'm actually going to just do 3 to finish off this circle. So at this point, to finish off the circle, what you do need to do is, instead of going down, okay, you want to go through, and I usually go through the last 2 beads. And this is just to give it the flow, that continuous look. If you went down right here, right now, then you'd have a space in between there. So when you go through your bead, last 2 beads there, it just continues the flow. Okay, so now I just go down right there, and then I just skip back over to the first of the 3 that I strung on there, up and over. Okay, and I'm noticing that my tail is just about the same length as my thread right now, so I'm just going to pull that and shorten that tail there. Now I'm going to go to my second tacking here. Just up and over. Okay, and one more here. And then we're going to double it. Just going up there, turning it, and going through the last 3, but I'm just going to add in another one there again, just to kind of get that continuous flow. And then needle down. There we go. So that's really coming together. Now, you want to be careful that your thread doesn't get too short. If it gets too short, then it's really hard to tie a knot at the back. And your knots are important. You want to get a good knot to secure your thread so that your beading doesn't come apart. So this, I still have a little bit of thread to go, I think, on here. Usually 1 to about 3 inches is a good amount. So I've got a little bit of thread that I could keep going, but I think I'm just going to tie it off because I'm on to a new row anyways. Okay. So again, you just want that 1 arm's length worth of thread. I find that's a good amount to work with. Thread our needle the same way here. Get the eye, put it on top, push down with the eye and up with the thread. There. Pull. Gonna hold the short tail, pinch it there like that. Get the end and tuck it in so I can pinch it. We're wrapping it around. Essentially, if you're an embroiderer, this is like making a French knot. So with beading thread, it's thin. You're going to go probably 5-6 times. This is a thicker yarn, so I'm just going to go about 4 times. Just scooch that down in between your thumb and your pointer there and pull it down the shaft of the needle and hold on to that wrapped part in your fingers because that's what's going to give you your knot. There we go. And a good anchoring knot there. Now, before we continue with the beading, I'm going to draw on the petals so that you can see how to do the petals. So we're going to make this 4-petal flower. So we've got 1 there, 2, 3, and 4. Now, I like to start with the outline of the petal. And so I'm going to go from here and outline this part here, right down to there. Okay, then I'm going to start filling in. So I'll fill in a row here, and I'll fill in a row here. Okay, and then just keep going. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, so we're going to start from underneath. Right. I'm going to bring my needle up. Then I'm going to put on 4 beads. So I'm going to load 1, 2, 3, 4, drop. Just going to make this tail a little bit longer so that my thread is not as long. Okay, so load, drop. Now I'm spacing. Okay. And I'm going to hold those with my thumb. And then I'm going to go down just slightly in front. Pull. And now we're going to tack backwards. So now it's not quite a straight line. I'm actually wanting to curve it a little bit there. And so that's where your thumbs also are really important. So again, I'm pulling with my middle finger, pulling this tight. And then I'm going to use my thumb to push these into shape, into that round shape. If I'm not pulling it, it's straight, and I actually wanted a bit of a curve. So I'm going to put my thumb there to hold the shape, and then I'm going to tack. Okay, and whoops, we got a knot in the back there. We're going to tack back. All right, so tack at an angle there and pull. My thread's getting a little caught there. There we go. Pull. All right. Just get my thumb in there to position it at a bit of an arc there. Pull. Go over the spine and tack at an angle. Okay. And then one more tack here. Pull, tack at an angle there so we hide that thread. And now go back up where we started and make that double spine. So go through all 4 of those beads, and then we're in the ready position. The thread is coming through the center of the beads. So now we're ready to keep going all the way around, 4 at a time, and just using that thumb to give it its shape. Okay. Down. Using that finger underneath here to pull it tight. Using my thumb to give it its shape here, and tack. Now we're getting really close to the end of our petal here. And so what I wanted to show you is you don't actually want to go all the way down right here, because then you are taking up space on this petal here. So instead, you really do want to just stop at this point here. You want to stop at this point, and then we're going to start the new petal. And so that there's only one center line here instead of a line of beads going down and then a line of beads going up. If you do that, your petals are going to be different sizes, because when your line of beads go down here, you can't put another line of beads in the same spot. And so you'd have to move them over, and therefore your petal would be smaller. So at this point, I'm just going to go back down. Oops, getting a bit of a knot there. And then I'm going to come back up at the bottom of this second petal here. Okay, coming back up there. And now I'm going to load on 4 beads. 2, 3, 4. And now I'm starting, let's make this tail a little bit longer. Now I'm starting the second petal there. And you see how it intersects with this one here and finishes off that petal. And you can see how that has actually completed this petal. So it actually does look like it goes all the way around, but really we beaded and we stopped there, and then we started the second petal and went around. So you're going to do that with all of them. I'll just show you on this paper here. So you have your circle, your middle, and then you're really going to bead up to that point. Then you're going to start your other petal and it'll join, and then you stop at that point. Again, you start your third petal and see how it joins there. You're going to stop there, and then you're going to start your fourth petal, and then you'll stop there. Okay? So personally, I do all of the outline first, and then I will go and fill in each petal. So I'm just going to show you how to fill in the petal, but if I was doing this as an actual project, I would just continue on here. But to fill in the petal, you're going to come up at the circle there, and you're going to want to go about half a bead's width away from the outer outline there. You're going to go up, load on those 4 beads, and then drop them. And now you're just going to space them again. So you're just spacing them in there, snugging them up, putting your needle down just slightly in front, about a half bead's width in front. You're tugging on the back, pushing with your thumb again, and just start to tack. Again, you're just going to do that all the way around. And that's basically it for one needle beading. It's a simple technique, but it just takes time. Like any craft, it just takes time to master the tension and the spacing of the beads. So have fun with that. Bye.